And now, the President of the United States.
A new day is dawning in America. Things are being put right. American men are asserting themselves, and their women are standing down, ready to do their share. This is the Collins way. Keep it simple, keep it just, keep it all for the men who earned it.
The cornerstone of what's right with America is our freedom. But what would it be like if we lived in a frighteningly different America, where the president was a dictator and the freedoms we now enjoy no longer existed? Hello, I'm Patrick Duffy. The drama you are about to see is pure fiction, but the repression it shows is happening in other countries around the world. Perhaps we Americans can better appreciate the freedoms our Constitution guarantees as we watch how different our lives would be without them. Later in the program, you'll meet 4 Americans who share a commitment to change what's wrong with America without losing their deep appreciation for what's right with America. But first, our drama. The Gordon family is just returning to the United States after several years in a remote jungle that has kept them cut off from all news back home. They don't know they're coming home to a darkly different America.
Okay, we're home.
This place is as empty as the plane.
Oh, isn't it election day?
Is it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, people probably just stayed home so they could vote.
Not everybody. Look at all the people trying to leave. Boy, did we luck out.
Let's go. How you doing?
Common sense virtues of the founding fathers. Yes, the founding fathers. Today's vote is a referendum on my first term.
Excuse me, who's Collins running against?
That's President Collins.
A simpler constitution without a...
Who's President Collins running against?
I haven't asked. You've been in New Guinea 7 years?
Yes.
Doing what?
Public health physicians.
That you support Collins' way of running this great country of ours.
Put your property on the cart, please.
Today, you, the voters, will give us a report card on the changes we've made.
Where do we claim them?
Put all your property on the cart, sir.
You mean like metal and coins so we don't set off the detector? No, wait! Let go of them! Daddy! Wait a second! Let go of them!
They're your women that makes them property.
You can't do that!
Things have changed in America, Mr. Gordon.
Just suspend the Bill of Rights. Who would vote for that?
The same people that let them put us in those cages? There's no way I'm wearing this stupid outfit!
Calm down. Now, maybe the cab driver didn't know what was going on.
Dad, that guy was definitely spaced out. I mean, he was worse than those guys at the airport.
There were no women on the streets. We're all the women and the girls. Margie, you know what? Call Anna Oliveira. Her number should still be in that drawer. She'll know what's going on.
This is crazy. They can't have completely wiped out all civil liberties. That's just not possible.
Dad, the phone's dead.
And the TV's broken.
Fathers,
And we only get one channel, and it's the president again.
this is the Collins way. Keep it simple, keep it just, keep it all for the men who earned it. Today's vote is a referendum on my first term. The people, the American people, have spoken.
They're censoring
They
TV.
want to return to a simple.
Walt, I don't want to stay here, not if things are like this.
Well, hold on. We're jumping to conclusions. We need to talk to somebody we know, somebody we trust.
Dad, they said women have to wear these outfits and stay inside or we'd be hurt.
Todd and I will go out. Nobody's going to get hurt. Todd, I want you to get on a bike. I want you to go over to the Oliveira's house, right? Tell them we just got back in the country and we need a cell phone.
Cool. I wonder if Bobby will still recognize me.
Hey, just go straight to Bobby's and come right back, okay?
Maybe the cable's disconnected. I can't believe that all we get is a government channel.
We're going back to the spirit of '76.
Look, it can't be as bad as it seems. I'll go out, I'll get some food, find a payphone. I'm going to call Ted at the hospital, find out what's really going on.
Well, be careful, okay?
Hello? Miss Oliveira? I can hear you in there.
Todd Gordon?
Yeah.
You shouldn't be out there. Go home.
What's the matter, Miss Oliveira? Can Bobby come out and talk to me?
Can't come out and you shouldn't be out there either. No boys your age go outside anymore.
Well, my dad needs a cell phone. Can I at least borrow a phone, Miss Oliveira?
Phones require special licenses now. Now go home. You're going to attract attention out there.
You mean you don't even have a phone?
Todd, listen very carefully. This is the last time I'm going to say this. Go home. It's dangerous for kids now. Tell your mom I'll be over as soon as I can.
Ballot stub?
What?
Have you voted yet? Lines aren't going to get any shorter. Move.
You don't have to convince me to vote against Collins. Which party's going to bring back the Bill of Rights?
Are you crazy? They'll bust you for saying stuff like that.
Who's Collins running against?
You really don't get it, do you?
Well, is this all right with you living like this?
Shut up.
Well, what's the point? You don't have a choice. You're not voting for anything.
We're voting against unemployment.
Was unemployment high?
Hey, the broads had half the jobs. Now we got them all back. This Collins is a one-issue guy. You vote for the man, you work.
Women can't work?
Hey, let them do what they do best, pal. Have babies.
Whoa, hey, what's your hurry?
I don't know.
How about a burger? We're buying.
No, thanks. I already ate. I gotta go.
Now listen, I need to talk to you. Kid, you just made the biggest mistake of your life.
Alright, we gotta get out of here. Let's get our stuff together. Todd!
He's not here. He never came back from Anna's house.
Where is he?
We don't know. We've been waiting for you. We've got to go find him.
How could that happen? We told him to go to your house and come right back.
Walt, I feel awful. I thought he understood.
They were having a meeting, Dad. She couldn't open the door.
What kind of meeting?
The resistance.
Alright, first things first. Does anybody have any idea where Todd is?
They've got him. The secret police.
Colin's goons have my son?
They took my Robert the first week after the election. All the little boys disappeared. Nobody knows where they go.
They bus him. Right from the school, I saw him. All right, first we're gonna find Todd, and then we're gonna get out of this country.
Come with us, Anna. We'll stick together.
Oh, I can't leave my husband. His leg's infected, and only Collins people can use the hospitals.
There's a hypodermic and penicillin in here. You go home. We'll pick you up as soon as we find Todd.
What's with the computer?
It's bootleg. Anna says the internet's the only way to find out what's going on.
Collins hasn't closed down the net?
It was the first thing he shut down, along with the phones. If you've got a wireless modem, there are still some bandit servers you can log on to.
What was she showing you?
Reports on rebel positions.
They're fighting back? They're actually shooting back?
Around some of the universities.
Yeah, Collins has secret police commando units encircling both Cambridge and Berkeley.
There's that many rebels?
Anna said Chapel Hill is completely in rebel hands.
Come on.
You really think Todd's in the building?
I don't know. I saw him bring kids out of there a few minutes ago.
Then we're not just gonna hand him over.
All right, we'll lie. We'll say that Todd knows where some hot computers are stashed. We'll make him seem valuable until we can snatch him.
What do they want with little boys? It's so creepy.
At least we'll figure that out.
Dad, you're not making any sense. How are we gonna do that?
We'll wing it. If I get inside, you guys create some kind of distraction. And when I find Todd, we'll make a run for the airport. Bribe people. All right, do anything you have to. Okay?
Hey, you! What are you doing back there? You got some ID?
How you doing? I'm looking for my son. 12-year-old, good-looking, athletic kid.
You don't get them back, pal.
You can't just take them.
Hey, I'm just doing my job here.
Just following orders.
Damn straight.
Well, where do you take them? Hang on. Look. Where do you take them?
We take them to the training camps.
What kind of training camps?
Military. Somebody's got to fight those crazy broads.
Fight who?
Look, half the rebels are women. They fight like hell.
Collins uses little boys as soldiers?
Hey, it works. Women don't kill kids. Hey, you can't go in there.
Now.
Margie! Hey! Listen up, people! My name is Margie Gordon. I was born in this country and I'm proud of it. shut up. Not if we stand together.
Honey, get off the car.
They had this flag they used during the revolution. It said, live free or die.
Get down from there.
Leave her alone. That still sounds pretty good to me. If I can't speak out, I'll pass on this government. I'll pass on President Collins. Well, but I can see the man's an idiot.
Get it on the curb. Everybody get back or we're going to be pulling some people in.
I am not going to hide in my house. I'm not going to give up my job. I'm going to fight back, and so should you.
Collins can't tell me what to do. I'm proud to be an American woman. This isn't the America I know. The America I know is free.
He's in there. I couldn't get him.
Live free or die.
Excuse me. My wife, she's not feeling well. Can we have some water?
Why don't you take care of the women and the kids before you stuff your faces, pigs? Here, man. Tell your wife to take as much as she needs.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
How long have you been in here?
9 months.
Have you seen a judge?
They're not in a hurry for that.
Dad says they can't hold you for more than 72 hours without arraigning you.
They can do anything they want to do.
But they can't hold you indefinitely. I mean, innocent until proven guilty.
Guilty if they don't like the color of your face. That's the Collins philosophy.
He can do that?
He can do anything he want to do. Miranda, habeas corpus, the right to counsel. He's thrown it all out. I mean, I've heard there's still some jewelry trials, you know, just for show. What country were you in?
New Guinea.
And you came back?
We didn't know. We kept hearing that America was as free as ever.
People over there didn't think that was a lie?
Not where we were in the jungle. We didn't get newspapers. This one time I saw a headline that said, President Collins stands for what's right with America.
What a crock.
Why didn't other Americans tell us?
Because travelers have relatives back home. You see, you criticize the government and they'll retaliate against your family. I know. Collins had my fiancée deported.
Why?
Because I gave an illegal speech.
What'd you say?
I read the Bill of Rights.
Holding cell 3 to interrogation. Holding cell 3 to interrogation.
If we get out, I'm going to join the rebels. We'll come back for you.
You come back and we'll walk out of here with 200 people ready to die fighting Collins.
Stand.
We know our rights. We're American citizens. We're not going to say anything until we talk to a lawyer.
Your rights?
We don't want to make trouble. There's got to be a mistake.
My husband's just saying, let's just get a lawyer in here so he can make an arrangement that's good for you and good for us.
Which one of you is Margaret?
I am.
Interesting speech you made.
Margie.
I said what was on my mind. That's not a crime, is it?
When you criticize the people's elected representatives, yes, young lady, it is a very serious crime.
Look, Mr.
My name shouldn't concern you.
We've been out of the country for a while. We're not up to speed on all these laws. We want to go back to New Guinea.
You'd like deportation? Do you have a savings?
It's almost $5,000 there.
Well, that should be enough for you and your wife.
Oh. We all go.
No. One person always stays, to minimize criticism abroad. And since Margaret here has committed the most serious crime, we'll keep her.
No way. We all go or no deal.
I'll stay.
Are you crazy?
No, Dad, but you and Mom have to take Todd.
Todd, who's Todd?
Our son. He's 12. We know you've got him.
Boys of that age have a duty and responsibility to their country. There's really nothing I can do for him.
How can you live in a place where children are soldiers? How can you work for a government that controls all expression? Where women are property?
Do you know what I did before President Collins? I parked cars at a fancy restaurant. Women would spend $100 on lunch and tip me a quarter. Am I nostalgic? I can live with it.
Go to hell.
How old did you say your son was?
12.
What's going on?
Today's your lucky day.
Said they would.
All I know is we're not leaving here without Todd.
Wait, Dad. If we find Todd, and if this guy's serious about letting us leave, I want you to know I'm not going.
What are you talking about?
I want to stay, to join the rebels.
Archie!
Americans won't take this. Not for long. There'll be a new revolution, and I'm gonna be part of
We're
it.
sticking together. We'll talk about how we're gonna help the rebels when we get out of this mess.
Dad!
First we find Todd.
A special situation has come up in Miami. We'll fly you down there. All 4 of you. You'll spend 1 night, and then we'll fly you out of the country.
What's the catch?
Catch? I thought you didn't like it here. They're here, sir. One of President Collins' biggest supporters lives in Miami. His 11-year-old son was involved in a car crash last night.
Let me guess. This kid doesn't fight rebels.
America will be better off without people like you, Gordon. There is just one thing.
Just let us have him. We'll do anything you want.
The boy needs a lung transplant. Your son's a perfect match.
Sadistic!
Let me go! I want to be with my family! What are you talking about?
It's your choice. You can leave the country and you can have him back. We'll just keep one of his lungs.
Today, you, the voters, will give us a report card on the changes we've made. A vote for Collins is a vote for America. God bless you, and good night.
Fortunately, we Americans still have our Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Freedom has great strength, but it's also fragile. The fictional drama suggests how quickly freedom can be lost when people take it for granted. What's right with America is that we believe in our Constitution, and we will fight to protect it. Each day, thousands of Americans take small stands for freedom and justice in their own communities. And in doing so, they expand and protect freedom for all Americans. When we return, you'll meet some dedicated people who have made a difference for all of us. Coming up next, an 18-year-old woman fights censorship, armed only with 45 written words. Tracy Bauer was only 18 when she decided she had to defend the First Amendment. As editor of the Southwest Missouri State University newspaper, she believed that the American legal system does work, despite the odds that were against her.
One day I heard a rumor on campus that there had been a rape a couple months back, and that it involved a basketball player.
Citing a federal law which protects students' academic records, campus security refused to show Tracy the crime report on rape.
So I went to the university vice president and I said, well, you have to let me see that report. You let me see all the other reports. And I'll never forget, you know, he sat up he had this big chair and he sat up, leaned up on his desk, and he said, you know, really, if you think about it, I don't have to let you see anything. So that's when it started coming into my mind that they're hiding something.
Tracy requested clarification of the university's policy. They responded by stopping media access to all campus crime reports. In the future, only the crime information they wanted to give out would be released.
It's at that point where I realized this was going to be a long fight, and it was going to be a hard fight.
She filed a lawsuit against the university in federal court. The story quickly began to attract national media attention.
I'm here because for the same reason you're here, to do my job, and I'm not able to do my job. I was pushing for my First Amendment right to a free press. No matter what degree the crime is, it's the responsibility of a newspaper to let people know what was going on, so our readers felt safe. But while you're fighting for their right to know, a lot of them saw it as, why does she have to drag our school through the mud on the national media?
Her case also caught the interest of a well-known Missouri Court of Appeals judge, Douglas Green, who was just retiring.
I was very impressed with Tracy, and I said, well, this is going to be a tough fight. I said, it's going to be hard on you. She said, I want to proceed with it. And I said, well, then I'll help you.
When Judge Green said that he would take the case, it was the first time that I really ever thought that we were going to get somewhere and that I'm going to be able to make a difference.
To me, it was a David and Goliath situation. You had a 20-year-old girl who was a student editor. On the one hand, you had the arrayed might of this institution, all their board of regents, all of whom are successful businessmen. I didn't feel bad about those odds, though. I thought she had the Constitution on her side.
I remember having my head down on this desk, and I said, Judge, I don't know what I'm going to say up there. He said, I'll tell you what you're going to say. You're going to get up there and you're going to say the truth, because the truth is what this case is about, and the truth is what the rest of your life is going to be about.
Tracy's battle ended 2 years after it began, when the federal court ruled in her favor, citing the First and Fifth Amendments.
It was the first case in the United States on this issue. And as a result, the law was amended, which President Bush signed into law to make these campus crime reports available to the public.
I was ecstatic. I knew that I had made a difference at SMS and nationwide. In a lot of countries, it's a few people who get to make all the decisions. In America, people who put their passion to work can have something to do with how our country is shaped.
Today, Tracy is a features reporter at the Springfield News Leader.
America doesn't work unless some of us sometimes are willing to be a pain in the neck.
Tracy, she stood up for what she believed, and she was willing to fight the fight, and she did, and she won. And that's what's right with America.
Coming up next, we'll meet a woman who's never let anyone or anything stand in her way. When Inez Kaiser was born into poverty in Kansas City nearly 80 years ago, racial equality was not protected by law. But Inez refused to let anyone or anything stand in the way of what was right. And by doing so, she also helped America live up to its promise.
My mother, she said to me as a child, I want you to be somebody. And that never left me. Even though I was poor, I was determined to get an education. I did not have enough books, but I managed to get on the honor roll through senior high school, graduated in the top 10 of the class.
During the depths of the Depression, Inez put herself through college, working in a laundry. But one of the toughest barriers she faced was racism.
I majored in home economics. At that time, African American girls were not even allowed to cook. We just stood and watched the white girls cook. One of our teachers flunked out all but 2 of us in the class, and I told her very frankly, looking her in the eye, I am not going to leave this school. I'm not going to leave this department. I intend to graduate.
Inez completed her degree, became a teacher, and in 1944 met and married Richard Kaiser.
She's a talkative little thing, man, and cute. Being old sailor hound dog. Look at there. That chicken needs frying.
Inez began writing columns syndicated in black newspapers throughout the country, including one on fashion.
It was a lot of fun. It opened new doors for me. I went to New York to visit the fashion shows, but I immediately became aware that there were no black models. We were writing about fashions, and they gave us pictures of white models. And I said, you know, I can't use these pictures in my newspaper, in my column. I finally found a few allies, and as a result, we were able to get the first black models on 7th Avenue in New York.
She was fearless, really. I wasn't an activist type, but she was, and go for it, girl. That's the way I felt about it.
In the early years of the civil rights movement, Inez was at the forefront in her hometown of Kansas City.
The downtown stores would allow us to shop. We could buy anything we wanted to, but they would not allow us to sit down to eat in their restaurants. On December the 8th, I stood up in a meeting and said, I move that we picket those stores, hit them in the pocket where they'll feel it and they'll know it. And not a black soul would cross that picket line. Well, when no black folks were crossing the picket line, some of the white people became sympathetic, and they didn't. So we practically closed the stores down during the Christmas holidays.
My mother explained to me as a young child to make me understand that we were fighting for something. And it wasn't a fight with your fist. And that wasn't allowed. This was a fight with your mind. You wanted to have the same rights and privileges that everyone did.
In 1961, Inez took a risk and opened her own public relations firm, the first African-American woman to do so in this country.
When she came home and told me that she had quit teaching school, I thought, are you out of your mind? Because teaching school was one of the better jobs you could get in those days.
Nearly 40 years later, it's still a successful business. Over the years, Inez has been recognized for her achievements with numerous local and national awards and honors. She's traveled the world representing the United States.
I've been able to see firsthand just how blessed I am to have been born in America. America has come a long way. It provides the opportunity, if you take advantage, to get an education, to get a job, to live where you want to live, and to do some of the things that I was denied as a younger person, as a child, to do.
Inez and Richard have been married for more than 50 years.
She can be bossy at times, most of the time really, but I love her just the same. Yeah, it's one of those things, you do or you don't, and I do.
I'm very proud of her. She was a woman who ended up being first at more things than I can even remember. And I don't think anything is going to stop her until Judgment Day comes.
Rosa Parks was a lady who refused to sit in the back of the bus. She refused to follow what was considered norm at the time. Rosa Parks stood out for what she believed in, and I have stood up for the things that I believe in.
You don't have to be famous or powerful to make a difference in America. You just have to make a commitment and get involved as a volunteer. Frank Rodriguez was so grateful for the opportunities he's been given as an American citizen that he's dedicated his retirement years to giving something back in return.
For Frank, it's always a thing of, let's get out there, let's do it. When he determined that he wanted to volunteer full-time, to tell him not to do it would be like to tell him to stop breathing.
Frank is a Puerto Rican-born Vietnam vet with 28 years of service in the Air Force.
When I was in the military, being in about 40 countries, gave me a chance, to go to some of the countries where the people were poor.
When retirement brought Frank back to Wichita, he found there was also a great need in his own backyard.
The Hispanic community now suddenly have grown tremendously. Our biggest problem is lack of education. There was no translation for the people that go to see doctors. I also saw a need for providing training to be able to find a better job. And our dropout rate is so high that our children, are getting out of school, so they don't have nothing to do. When they don't have nothing to do, they join the gangs.
Frank has dedicated himself to getting this building converted into a one-stop center for dealing with the pressing problems of his community. He approached Wichita businessman Richard Lopez to help him.
About a year ago, my receptionist gave me a call and said there was a Mr. Frank Rodriguez to see you. I didn't know who Frank Rodriguez was from Man in the Moon, and we just sat down and started talking.
When Frank's dream project started running into the reality of politics, he enlisted the support of State Senator Paul Feliciano.
Richard, how are you? No person intimidates him. It's not just walking up to the senator, it's going to the president of Bank 4 and saying, you're not lending enough money in the community and it doesn't look good. What are you going to do about it? He cared about the basic needs of people that were not being met. He wants to create a mentorship program for the kids to break the cycle of dropping out of high school.
From the standpoint of politics, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. We haven't had a real squeaky wheel in the Hispanic community. Frank has come along, and the Multicultural Center is slated now to actually materialize within the next year or two.
And for the first time in the history of the community, Frank lit a fire under these folks, and they came to the Capitol by the hundreds.
Betty Rodriguez has been married to Frank for more than 30 years.
This is a man that came to America not knowing a lot of English, but he's not afraid to go and face the tallest or the most intimidating because he believes in himself.
To better serve his community, Frank attends college full-time. At the age of 54, he's just received his bachelor's degree in social work and is now pursuing a master's degree.
Frank loves what he does. He cares for his people. Never once does he say, what's in it for me?
I'm very proud of Frank, and I'm hoping that people will recognize the role model that he is, because to me, he is a great role model.
What I find that is good about America is the fact that this is the only place in the world where you can come in with no education, with no background whatsoever. Coming from the poorest family there is, you can contribute something to society.
Frank is the epitome of what's right with America. The Hispanic term is corazón. It's heart. When he's involved with it, his heart's involved with it.
When we return, meet a woman who escaped to America, inspired by a man from another century. To be born in America is to have freedom as a birthright. But not all children in the world are that fortunate. Julia Kirikov was such a child. Today, she sees clearly what many of us take for granted. Born under repressive dictatorship in Bulgaria, Julia was inspired to come to America by a man she never met. That man was Abraham Lincoln.
When my mom first told me her story about Mr. Lincoln, when I heard that story, it really affected me because I'd never realized to what extent she'd gone through this horrible experience in communism.
17-year-old Michelle Caswell won a national essay contest with Lincoln and Me by telling the moving story of her mother's life.
In Sofia, Bulgaria, on March 22nd, 1947, Julia Kirikov was born into communism.
As a child, I knew that there was something desperately wrong happening in Bulgaria because we lived in fear. Freedom of speech didn't exist while I was growing up, and freedom of religion didn't exist in Bulgaria. I was deprived of the freedom of travel. You could not leave Bulgaria. You were a prisoner within the borders of Bulgaria. I thought the whole world was living under the same conditions. I didn't really believe that there was a country where freedom existed.
When Julia was 7 years old, her first grade class had a substitute teacher who had just come back from a trip to America. He spoke to them about a magnificent monument there to an extraordinary man, President Abraham Lincoln.
He told us this man was very important to the American people because he freed the slaves. And we were all interested because the previous teacher had told us that there were still slaves in America. And here is another teacher who is telling us totally the contrary. He gave us each postcard of the Lincoln Memorial in black and white.
The next day, Julia heard her substitute teacher had been arrested. The children were forced to return their postcards, but Julia hid hers in her pillowcase.
And every time I needed to talk to a friend, I would take out the card and talk to the card. And tell Mr. Lincoln that one day I would come see him and touch his hand at his Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C.
Julia and her family managed to escape to France in 1965 using forged documents. When Julia was 19, she got the chance to immigrate to the U.S. to attend college at Brigham Young University. There she met and fell in love with Tom Caswell. That was nearly 30 years ago.
I have 6 children, and they are my 6 symbols of freedom. They have not known fear, the fear that we felt in Bulgaria during my childhood. I see it in their smiles, I see it in their happiness.
Being married to Julie certainly makes me appreciate the freedoms that I enjoy far more than I ever did before.
Taking full advantage of the right to travel denied her in Bulgaria, Julia and her family have visited 47 of the 50 states.
We have a little ceremony as we travel from across a state boundary, why Julie and I kiss. And of course, I joke that this is a great incentive to travel a lot more because more often we go across state borders, the more we kiss.
But the first place Julia chose to visit after coming to America was the Lincoln Memorial.
It was much more beautiful than what I thought it would be. As I was climbing the steps, I had tears running down my cheeks. I read all the inscriptions and told him that I will always cherish the freedom he had given to the American citizens. I will always cherish it in my heart.
Half Bulgarian, I praise Mr. Lincoln for his miracle of freeing a slave who was born almost 100 years after he died. Mr. Lincoln freed my mother from a slavery to communism, and into this freedom I was born.
We enjoy the greatest freedom on the face of the earth. This is a land of dreams and fulfillment of dreams. And this is what's right with America.
Americans have never been short on dreams or courage. Our nation was created by immigrants and pioneers who left everything familiar behind and forged new lives in a new country. Preserving the promise of America falls to each of us. We owe it to all those who have gone before us to see that nothing happens to the freedoms and the country they fought so hard to gain. What's right with America? We, the people. That's what's right with America. I'm Patrick Duffy. Good night.